Hello, Stat 300, and this is Professor Gonzalez, and I'm going to do homework 3.1, which is just on the assignment side. This is only one problem, and there are other problems from 3.1 and 3.2 on the adaptive, ALEKS adaptive side with the golden pi circle. And I'm going to do some of those on another video. But this one is just the HW on the assignment side. This should go pretty quick, but there's a certain idea here that I wanted to make sure you got down. First of all, well, let's see what they're asking for. It says approximate the mean for the following data set, round your answer to one decimal place. Now, the thing is that what happens is that we've got these different classes, right? We've got class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, and class 5. And the thing is that we have a frequency, let's say at class number 2, we have a frequency of 14. So we've got 14 numbers that belong in this class from 14 to 27. The problem is we don't know what those exact numbers are. So, if we're going to try to find the mean, how do you find the mean of a data set? Well, you add up all the numbers and divide by how many numbers you had or have or add up. The problem is we have 14 numbers, but we know they belong in this class, but we don't know the specific numbers. So the next best thing to do is to find the class midpoint. So you find the midpoint of this class and then multiply it by 14. So basically saying all 14 of these numbers that belong in this class, we're all going to give them a value of the midpoint since we don't know what they are. So it's not perfect, but that's why this is an approximate of the mean. Okay, so that is our goal. And let's see, let's just get rid of some of this stuff I just wrote down. That is our goal, and this is basically called, let me write right here, it's called approximating the mean with grouped data. So here's the process. The thing we're going to need is we're going to need to get the midpoints. So I'm going to put midpoint right here. So these midpoints are going to show up. Okay, and then we're gonna add up all those guys. Let's see, maybe we can make that nice. We need to get the midpoint, so let's do that. I'm going to do that. I guess I'll use some color here. So the way we get our midpoint, I'm going to call this class midpoint. I think I showed you how to find a class midpoint before, yeah, in the last one. The way we get the midpoint is you take, in fact, I think I'm going to write this down here. Class midpoint. The way you do it is you take the lower class limit, and then we say plus the next lower class limit, and you add those up, and since you're taking the average of them, then divide by 2. So let's do that right now. You take the lower class limit, which is 0, and you add that to the next class limit, which is 14, and you divide by 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7, so this midpoint is 7. Okay, let's continue on. Let's do the next one here, I guess in red. The next one right here, we're going to do this class midpoint, and you take the midpoint, the lower class limit of the lower class limit of what you're trying to find, the class you're looking for, right? So 14 plus the lower class limit of the next class, which is 28. Divide that by 2. 14 plus 28 divided by 2 is 21. So we just found out midpoint for class number 2 is 21. And 21 essentially is right in the middle between 14 and 27. All right. Green. Let's find the class midpoint. You look at the lower class limit, 28. Add it to the next class limit of 42. Divide by 2. 28 plus 42 divided by 2 is 35. That's 35. Then we take a look at the next number, the class midpoint. Class midpoint is 42. So I've got the lower class limit of this class, which is 42. And then I need to add that to the next lower class limit, which is 56. Divide that by 2. I'm running out of space, aren't I? So I divide that by 2. So 42 plus 56 divided by 2 is 49. So this class limit, this midpoint is 49. And then I need a little more space for this last one that we'll do in purple. So if I want this last class midpoint, I'm doing this one right here. I take the, oh man, I'm definitely out of space here. Let's see, because the problem is, see, I'm gonna have to come up with this is the last class. So I need to know what would be the lower limit of the next class. So you can see that when you go from the lower class limit to the next lower class limit, that gives us our width, our class width. So going from 0 to 14, that would be 14. So 14 is the class width. So then if we want the next one, we'd have to add 14 to it. So 56 plus 14 is 70. So that's the lower class limit of the next class, which we don't have. So now we can calculate this, this class midpoint for this last class. We can do that by taking the lower class limit of the class we're looking for, 56, plus the next lower class limit. We had to kind of manufacture that. That's going to be 70. And then divide by 2. 56 plus 70 divided by 2 is 63. Okay, so our next step is now we're trying to come up with, we're at the step when we're trying to figure out a mean, right? Also known as average. You have to add up all the numbers and divide by how many numbers you added up. Well, right now we're at the step where we want to add up all the numbers. So to add up all the numbers, remember, we have a frequency of 4, right? We have 4 numbers that are in this class of 0 to 13. The problem is we don't know what those numbers are because they're just thrown in the bucket. So what we do is we find the midpoint of that. And so if we want to add these numbers up, essentially we need to multiply. We have to take 4 times 27, which gives us 28. And then we need to so we got to do that on every single step. 14 times 21 gives us 294. And 7 times 35 gives us 245. And 10 times 49 is 490. And 13 times 63 is 819. And when I add those up, this gives us 1,876. This is equivalent to adding up all the numbers. Okay, so now remember we're trying to find an approximate group mean. Let me continue on down here. I'm trying to find, well, let me write that out. I'm trying to find the approximate mean with grouped data. So we just added all those numbers up, essentially, and have 1,876. Now we have to divide by how many numbers we added up, and the amount of numbers that we added up go into this category of frequency. I'm going to have to get rid of some of this purple stuff, so hopefully you could always go back and look at it if you needed to. Okay, because I need to add up the frequency. That would be the number of how many items I had. So that's what I have to divide by. So if I add all those numbers up, I get 48. And that's my denominator of the mean. 48 numbers were added up. And now when we go ahead and take 1,876 divided by 48, we get approximately 39.08, repeating 3. And with this problem, they asked us to round to 1 decimal place. So if I'm going to round this to 1 decimal place, that would be this one. I look at the digit to the right, and that's bigger than 5, so we round this up. So it's approximately 39.1. And that's my answer for my approximated mean when I have grouped data. Use the midpoint, multiply it by the frequency, add them all up, divide by the frequency, the sum of frequencies. And that is it. So that's 3.1 on the assignment side. Of course, we do have more in 3.1, but that was embedded in the adaptive ALEKS questions, and I'll do a video for that as well. Okay, I hope everything is great. I hope you're doing fine, and have a good day.